Dreaming of opening your own fitness center? Just secure a space, pack it with cardio machines, and wait for the cash to flow. It seems like a solid strategy in your mind, especially when you step into any fitness club during peak evening hours. With every running machine occupied, weights clanking loudly, and a queue forming at the reception, the industry looks incredibly effortless. You take in the bustling atmosphere and tell yourself they have to be minting absolute fortunes here. The logic feels completely foolproof. Attract larger crowds, sell extra passes, and drastically boost your revenue. Unfortunately, there is a major flaw, because you are observing the facility during the brief window when it is most deceptive. In reality, this is not fundamentally a health enterprise. It is actually a recurring billing model that just so happens to feature free weights. Once you grasp this critical distinction, the entire mechanism behind its hidden profits and silent financial drains suddenly becomes clear. We should first examine the true price of entry, because launching this venture involves far more than just leasing a property and purchasing gear. The industry isn't uniform. Multiple variations exist, each operating as a completely distinct corporate model disguised in similar athletic wear. From discount warehouse chains relying on massive volume to standard commercial spaces offering group classes, the options vary wildly. You also have premium wellness clubs selling an elite lifestyle, boutique rooms for specific workouts, and intimate private training studios. Ultimately, every format forces a single crucial choice. Will your profits come from a massive crowd paying pennies, or an exclusive few paying a premium? That one structural decision dictates everything else, but here is where your initial assumptions about the startup costs will completely fall apart. You might assume the workout gear is the biggest expense, but the real financial burden is transforming an empty shell into a legal, functional facility. Property owners typically demand 3 to 6 months of rent in advance as a security deposit before you even swing a hammer. Installing thick rubber floors to protect the concrete base from slamming barbells will instantly swallow between $10,000 and $40,000. Building out the locker areas and showers requires specialized drainage and water-resistant materials, slapping another 10 to 50 grand onto the bill. Even the simple necessity of installing large, floor-to-ceiling mirrors across the walls can easily run you $3,000 to $12,000. Then comes the massive hidden cost that almost everyone underestimates: managing the intense heat and humidity generated by a room packed with sweating bodies. A standard retail unit simply can't handle it, so you are legally mandated to install industrial-level ventilation based on strict air circulation formulas. If you have 100 members training during rush hour, the law requires pumping in over 2,000 cubic feet of fresh air every minute. That isn't just turning on a ceiling fan, it's a comprehensive HVAC overhaul that can cost up to $50,000 before opening day. When you combine the deposits, structural upgrades, insurance, permits, marketing, and the necessary cash cushion to survive those terrifying first months, reality sets in. Simply unlocking the front doors of a standard mid-sized fitness center can easily demand anywhere from $300,000 to over $1 million. Just when you think you're done, the actual exercise gear presents the next major financial trap lying in wait for new owners. A single commercial treadmill costs thousands, and a proper cardio section requires at least 6 to 12 of them just to meet baseline expectations. Once you add in the necessary strength machines, squat racks, and free weights, your total equipment invoice can quickly spiral up to $250,000. This forces a difficult choice. Buying outright saves you from monthly bills, but it dangerously drains your cash cushion right when you need it most. Alternatively, leasing protects your immediate cash and keeps machines fresh, but steep interest rates mean you will ultimately pay far more than the gear is worth. If your gym fails and doors close, those equipment leases don't magically vanish. They remain a strict legal burden that haunts you indefinitely. Ultimately, regardless of the financing path chosen, you are shackled to a massive monthly expense that demands payment even on totally empty days. This brings us to real estate, an area where rookie operators constantly fail by assuming general neighborhood population is all that matters. The reality is much stricter. About 4/5 of your paying customers will commute no more than 15 minutes to reach your front door. That tight geographic circle represents your total potential audience. You aren't pulling clients from across the whole city, just that immediate radius. Within that tiny zone, the local resident's financial capabilities must perfectly align with whatever monthly subscription fees you decide to enforce. You simply can't sustain a premium, expensive boutique facility in a budget-conscious neighborhood, no matter how incredible your brand new machines might be. Securing a prominent urban storefront might run you over $100 per square foot annually. vastly exceeding the cheaper rent of rural spaces. Misjudge that demographic balance, and you will be chained to an astronomical property lease that your local community can never actually support. But the true secret to this entire industry, the mechanism that explains everything else, lies in how the memberships actually function behind the scenes. Imagine tossing a coin for every new sign-up, sorting your incoming clientele into two wildly different behavioral categories and futures. The first group consists of dedicated gym goers who religiously hit the weights 3 days a week after week, all year long. The second group visits twice for their New Year's resolutions, feels proud, and vanishes forever, yet their credit card keeps getting billed. Surprisingly, that absent ghost member is actually the holy grail of fitness profitability, forming the true financial backbone of any successful facility. Let's break down the math. Dedicated regulars constantly consume resources by burning through hot water, grinding down treadmill belts, and needing fresh towels. These daily visitors also occupy valuable floor space during peak hours, potentially frustrating other guests and driving them to cancel. Conversely, the phantom member who joined at the start of the year creates absolutely zero operational expenses for the facility. Economically speaking, their maintenance cost is practically non-existent, yet their monthly subscription fee is automatically deposited without fail. Statistics across the industry reveal a shocking truth. Nearly 2/3 of active subscribers hardly ever set foot inside the facility. The bulk of a budget fitness center's income actually relies on these absent individuals, making it a deliberate structural strategy rather than a fluke. Consider the physical space. A facility boasting thousands of subscribers could never safely accommodate even 20% of them simultaneously. Safety regulations and equipment limits mean a standard fitness floor is legally restricted to holding maybe a couple hundred guests at most. If a mere 10% of a massive subscriber base arrived at once, hundreds would be crammed into a space designed for a fraction of that crowd. Therefore, owners aren't really offering physical space. They are wagering mathematically that most clients will stagger their visits or simply stay home entirely. The actual property merely needs to be spacious enough for the small percentage of active attendees, entirely ignoring the massive pool of paying absentees. That is exactly why owners dread the idea of everyone showing up daily. Accommodating them would demand massive, costly facilities and astronomical utility bills. Beyond physical capacity, there is a fascinating seasonal rhythm to this industry that dictates a facility's entire annual economic cycle. Fueled by fresh goals, over 1/10 of annual enrollments flood in during January alone, prompting fierce marketing campaigns and heavily slashed joining fees. While this early rush provides a massive influx of immediate cash, that initial surge vanishes just as rapidly as it appeared. By summer, a massive chunk of those hopeful recruits vanish, with February acting as the critical breaking point where early motivation completely fizzles out. Veteran operators remain completely unfazed by this massive exodus, anticipating the membership drop-off long before it actually happens. They strategically squirrel away that winter revenue, relying on those financial reserves to survive the inevitable summer drought. The gym owners who fail are usually the rookies who mistake that temporary seasonal jackpot for a permanent baseline income. Beyond surviving these seasonal shifts, founders must make a fundamental structural choice right at the beginning: build from scratch or buy a franchise. Partnering with a corporate giant hands you a recognizable logo, discounted workout gear, and a completely proven blueprint for success. However, that corporate safety net comes with a hefty price tag, often demanding an initial buy-in of up to $60,000. On top of that, you are forever surrendering up to 10% in royalties, plus marketing dues back to headquarters every single month. Conversely, taking the risk to open an independent facility means you get to pocket absolutely every single penny your business generates. Sacrificing a slice of your earnings to a parent company only makes sense if their famous name attracts significantly more patrons to cover the difference. Yet, regardless of the operating model you choose, there is a deep psychological game at play regarding why absent members simply keep paying. Swiping that credit card initially feels like making a sacred, optimistic pact with a fitter, more dedicated future version of yourself. Many view the financial hit as a strict motivator to exercise, but eventually, pure consumer inertia takes over the driving seat. Terminating a cheap subscription requires admitting defeat, so most folks would rather quietly let the automatic billing continue indefinitely rather than face that reality. Even the physical layout aids this retention. Clear pathways reduce initial intimidation, while carefully restricting mirrors in beginner zones prevents newcomers from feeling painfully self-conscious. Lighting choices are also highly intentional, with weightlifting zones utilizing harsh directional beams to strategically highlight muscle definition. Conversely, spaces designated for stretching and recovery feature much softer illumination to immediately promote a soothing, relaxed atmosphere. Furthermore, upbeat music tempos are deliberately selected to help individuals power through intense exercises while barely noticing the exertion. Every single environmental detail serves a singular goal: maintaining the customer's emotional connection to the facility, regardless of their actual attendance. Industry insiders understand this psychological hold perfectly, which explains why severing ties with a fitness center is notoriously harder than signing up. Instead of a simple phone call or a quick tap in an app, many agreements demand you terminate your membership physically or via certified mail. On top of those hurdles, these contracts usually stipulate a 1 to 2 month notice period before the upcoming billing cycle. This sneaky clause ensures the facility extracts at least one final monthly payment from you long after you have chosen to walk away. Interestingly, expired credit cards or rejected transactions are directly responsible for nearly 40% of all lost memberships. Because of this loophole, fitness companies employ entire teams specifically tasked with hunting down missed payments before the customer completely vanishes. Such deliberate friction recently caught the attention of regulators, prompting the FTC to propose a 2024 rule demanding that quitting be as effortless as joining. Although a federal court temporarily blocked that national mandate, cities like New York aggressively pushed forward with their own strict cancellation regulations. This regulatory battle highlights a crucial truth. If these businesses thrived solely on active, satisfied users, they wouldn't build such massive exit hurdles. The reliance on cancellation friction proves that gyms depend heavily on revenue from reluctant payers, but another hidden financial trap still awaits novice owners. The first major surprise for new gym owners isn't related to expensive workout machines. It's a completely unexpected legal expense. Pumping your personal playlist through the facility's speakers is actually a massive violation of commercial broadcasting rules. If you want to play tunes for paying customers in America, you are legally obligated to secure public performance licenses. To complicate matters, you can't just pay one centralized agency. Multiple distinct organizations manage the rights of different songwriters. As a result, a standard fitness center usually has to maintain active registrations with several of these groups simultaneously. Once you combine the minimum annual charges from each group, a single facility could easily owe up to $4,000 every year. Ignoring this mandate is incredibly dangerous, as these licensing bodies actively deploy undercover agents to hunt down unauthorized broadcasting. If you get caught violating federal copyright laws, the financial penalties for willful infringement are absolutely devastating. Fines can start around $750 for a single track and escalate to a staggering $150,000. Relying on a standard consumer streaming account quietly exposes the owner to a lawsuit that completely dwarfs the proper licensing fee. This audio dilemma perfectly highlights a broader reality. The most dangerous expenses aren't the upfront price tags on your shiny new dumbbells. The real financial drains are silently buried within obscure lease agreements, licensing terms, and inevitable maintenance contracts. Heavy daily usage destroys treadmill belts and machine cables, requiring an ongoing repair budget of up to $3,000 every month. Add in massive utility bills for constant air conditioning and hot showers, and these relentless operational costs quickly consume your expected profit margins. So, can a fitness center relying solely on this passive membership strategy actually stay afloat? The harsh truth is that many do not. Consider Bally Total Fitness, which once dominated the American market as the absolute largest health club franchise in existence. Their strategy relied heavily on intense, multi-year member agreements, often treating gym contracts like auto loans. While guaranteeing revenue years in advance seemed brilliant in theory, the fitness giant shockingly filed for bankruptcy twice within 12 months. This colossal failure didn't happen because the public lost interest in exercise. The root cause was fundamentally structural. Those pushy sales strategies and sketchy financing plans ultimately sparked major consumer lawsuits and deep accounting probes. They built an empire entirely on borrowed money and empty promises, leading to back-to-back bankruptcies before being dismantled entirely. We saw the exact same tragedy unfold with 24-Hour Fitness, another former heavyweight in the national gym industry. They didn't go under because people stopped lifting weights, but because their massive debt load completely suffocated their actual cash flow. The core lesson from both of these corporate disasters is that customer demand was never the actual problem. They ultimately collapsed because the delicate equation balancing fixed overhead and debt payments against dependable income simply shattered. A fitness center can boast thousands of active members and a packed parking lot, yet still balance on the edge of insolvency. To understand how a facility actually turns a profit, you have to look at the basic engine: monthly revenue minus fixed expenses. If standard operating costs hit $30,000 and memberships are $89, you need exactly 337 paying customers just to break even. Falling short of that magic number means the facility bleeds cash continuously. But once you cross that threshold, every new sign-up is practically pure profit. This incredible margin exists simply because an inactive client costs the business almost nothing to maintain. However, that optimistic scenario is shadowed by extreme volatility. Freshly opened fitness centers almost never hit their target membership quotas on launch day. It often takes a grueling year and a half just to climb out of the red. During that agonizing waiting period, the owner's initial cash reserves are being steadily drained to keep the lights on. A sluggish pre-sale campaign or a sudden rival opening next door can completely exhaust those funds before the business ever becomes self-sustaining. Furthermore, your client base is constantly eroding, with industry averages showing that about 30 to 40% of people cancel their contracts annually. A club with 500 patrons might need to recruit 300 fresh faces in a year just to offset those monthly cancellations and maintain the status quo. Because relying solely on dues is like running on a treadmill, establishing a lucrative secondary income source like personal training becomes absolutely vital. Yet, traditional one-on-one coaching hits a strict financial wall, usually maxing out around $100,000 a year because trainers only have so many hours before they burn out. To smash through that income ceiling, facilities began grouping multiple clients into semi-private sessions, drastically increasing the hourly yield. A single coach handling 4 people at $40 a head suddenly pulls in $160 an hour, doubling the revenue while saving each client money. That win-win dynamic perfectly explains why the fitness industry has aggressively pivoted towards small group coaching over isolated private workouts. Naturally, the facility has to split this windfall, usually handing over a 30 to 50% commission to the payroll coach. Even after giving the trainer their cut to cover overhead, a packed coaching schedule generates significantly higher hourly profits than standard gym access ever could. Ultimately, a single committed coaching client can easily out-earn dozens of ghost members who just pay for a key card. Taking a step back to view the entire year reveals the two profoundly contrasting realities of running this enterprise. In the best-case scenario, your location is flawless, sign-ups hit their targets, and cancellations stay remarkably low. Add a thriving personal training department to that mix, and an independent facility can generate up to $1.5 million annually. With a healthy double-digit profit margin, the business owner could comfortably pocket anywhere from $70,000 to $180,000. That represents a genuinely rewarding financial outcome for the immense effort and upfront capital initially invested. However, in a more realistic timeline, completely ordinary setbacks begin chipping away at those perfect projections. Member turnover might hover at the higher end, or a massive budget franchise opens nearby, stealing your bargain hunting members. On top of that, aging treadmills might suddenly demand constant maintenance, adding thousands of unexpected dollars to your monthly overhead. Under these pressures, that comfortable profit cushion shrinks rapidly, potentially plunging the business into the red during quieter seasons. Even if your evening parking lot looks entirely full, your annual earnings could quietly plummet by well over $100,000. There are no dramatic catastrophes or scandals here, just compounding minor expenses and slightly fewer renewals draining the accounts month after month. So, if you are still dreaming of launching your own fitness empire, keep this ultimate truth in mind before signing a lease. True success was never about the massive crowds you attract. It is entirely about surviving on the revenues of those who stop showing up.